Okay, so I recently have been playing with a topic that I think is huge for athletes. It relates to foot health, lower leg health, and how to travel well. And
Yeah.
so I've got a couple questions for you on that. So let me tell you kind of like the protocol that I was using, and I'd love to hear like if you have anything to add to it or anything else that maybe I'm missing. So the struggle that I've had and that I know a lot of athletes have is when you travel, you may be sitting down on the plane for 4 hours
Yep.
or
Yep.
in a car for 8 hours, or, you know, just like, you take like type A, hyper mobile, active people, and then you make them travel somewhere to a race far away, and you've got to sit down in this like relatively low energy state for hours and hours and hours.
Mm.
And so here's kind of like an overview of what I've been trying to do. So I was reading about blood exchange, like just in your whole system, and
Mm.
how good that is, and how um, organs clean up your blood, your heart, your liver, clean up your blood, and also you get a better nutrient exchange. So your vitamins, minerals, like they can get kind of localized in certain areas because your blood's like transporting these things around.
Mm.
So the idea was I flew to Boston this past week, watched the Boston Marathon. And when I went, I got to the airport early. I brought my compression boots with me.
Mm.
So I laid down in the airport and had the compression boots on.
Not weird at all, right? Not
Yeah,
drawing the eyes.
which everybody's looking at me. And it was actually weird. One guy stepped over me, almost almost like he just dunked on me. And it, like, like they do in the NBA, they'll
Yeah.
like step over someone, like, yeah. And
Yeah.
he had like kind of a goofy look on his face. So I don't know what was up with that. But so I got in the boots 45 minutes before the flight. On the way to the flight, I wore my compression sleeves.
Mhm.
Um, and I would just decide to go all in. So I also drove, when I drove to the airport, I put heat, like the heat on the seat, the button, you can
Yeah.
press it, make the seat
Yeah.
hot. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
that. So I did that, and then I put air, like cool air on my feet, like
Okay.
to try and get like some circulation going while I'm sitting.
Mhm.
Um, got up every hour on the plane after getting on,
Mhm.
just stretch out a little bit. When I landed, I did a voodoo floss. You know what voodoo floss is?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
All the compression stuff, man. It's good.
yeah, yeah. So I like really cranked down on the voodoo floss and did a couple sets of that. Put my feet up immediately after getting off the airplane.
Yeah.
So instead of rushing to baggage and doing and like just rushing all day long, I was taking these little intervals to stop and like take care of blood flow issue.
Yeah.
Um, I did some jumping jacks like in between like
Yeah.
stops, like when I felt like my heart rate was really low and I was like getting kind of like sluggish, I do some jumping jacks.
Yeah.
um yeah, so that was the protocol, and I'm interested to hear like how important do you think, like I just have this idea that blood exchange is a lot of what we're experiencing with bad recovery with lower legs. So I'm
Mhm.
interested to hear your thoughts on that, and then anything
Yeah.
anything I'm missing um in that protocol, like what could be added or what's extraneous.
Yeah, I'll answer like the first part first. Don't let me forget, because I'll probably go off on a tangent, Jay. Don't let me forget about like what else to add to it.
Yeah,
But I remember, yeah, I think I mean, it's pretty solid protocol of like, I think, yeah, you were doing the compression. Was it Normatec boots? What'd you have for the compression?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just packed my Normatec with me, carried it on, and the thing you got to think about there is one time I tried that and I forgot to wear shorts. So
That's gonna be
normally
rough.
normally I just take my pants off and I do the Normatex in my underwear, right?
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't, I mean, it's not appropriate for the airport.
Yeah.
So I remember to wear shorts, and also they always stop me in baggage claim with that huge
Oh, with the boots, yeah.
Normatec thing. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I know the biggest thing would probably be the long flight. Like, did you have to do compression before the flight? Like, yeah, you could have just like essentially think of like the only reason we care about the compression, Jay, is typically when we're running, we're walking, we're like our muscles are the pumps, right? Like the
yep.
heart pumps blood around, but once that gas exchange happens, what pumps the deoxygenated blood back to your heart? Well, it's your muscles, your muscle pump. This is why when someone gets older and they get out of a plane and their calves are all swollen, well, that's because their circulation is probably not what it used to be, and because they sat for 5 hours, and I'm sure on a plane doesn't help things too, because gravity and the way that works, it's just pooling. The blood's not able to get back to the heart, so it just pools, and then eventually it kind of swells out and gets into the soft tissues. So the most important part I would say is during flight and then right afterwards. So I mean, if you walk around like it's going to circulate the blood. So your best muscle pump blood, a muscle pump, Jay, is going to be your muscles. It's going to be your calf muscles, and your quads help too. But the biggest one we talk about typically is the calves. So I would say I forgot the millimeters of mercury. You might know this, Jay. I believe it's 30 to 50 for like the
Yeah.
compression socks. Because if it's too low, it's not going to accomplish it. But number one is I would wear compression socks when you're on a long drive or you're flying. Like you can sit there and you can kind of do muscle pumps. Like I would do that too. Like you have compression socks on, right? Get up, walk around, and maybe every 20 minutes, do some calf, or you're sitting there, just do some heel and toe ups, toe rocks.
Oh, I forgot to say something. The other thing I did was I was doing isometric squats in the seat
Oh, you're
every
just
th- every
floating.
30 minutes. Yeah. And
Yeah, yeah.
so no, I think you're totally right about the muscle pump being the muscles. I will say this though, the harder of a workout I do,
Mhm.
um, the worse my legs feel when I travel. So if I hit a hard
Mm.
workout and then just go sit on a plane, dude, it
Yeah, yeah.
sucks. It's real
It's
bad.
not fun. Yeah, yeah.
And so that's part of it too, is trying to get ahead of the recovery. And I
Yeah,
think your muscle pump is bad when you're tired. It must be,
yeah.
because it's, I know that the swelling in like just the general fatigue is worse on the airplane. You get like start cramping and get tight. So anyway, that's the other
Yeah.
thing I forgot to say that I was doing. I was basically just like propping myself up in the seat and doing these like holds.
So, yeah, that's
And
I
the
haven't heard that one.
the other thought there is like, think about this. So anytime you take these huge quad muscles and hamstrings and glutes and you
Mhm.
fire them, like that's also going to draw blood towards that area and away
Yeah,
from
yeah.
lower
It's
legs.
gonna push it back up. Yeah, it can't. Yeah, the cool thing about the veins is they have blocks. Like there's blocks
Yeah,
where
they don't go backwards.
yeah, they
Yeah.
don't go backward. And essentially, what if you have varicosity or a varicose vein? Sometimes that gets all messed up, and in the sense that's why that can cause some swelling. But I mean, most of us, hey, we don't have varicose veins. You do isometric contraction, it's gonna help push the venous blood back to the heart. You get that recirculation. Something to think about too, Jay, is I guess this might be something to add on to the second part is I'm a big fan. I mean, you know this too from just from presenting last year at the Run Free Camp, but I do like muscle releases. I love mobility work, and I think of like if you've ever had plantar fasciitis, you've ever had like my knee hurts or my hip flexor or I tore my calf muscle. It's always like you get out of bed and you're like, oh man, those first couple steps, they're just rough, right? You just lay down for 6 to 8 hours, maybe 9 hours, and now the essentially if things are stiff and if you have a problem area,
Hmm.
if it's been stiff, it hasn't moved for a while, you're going to feel it the moment you start moving. So we just tend to find that like, and if you had a hard workout, guess what? You probably tore like on a micro level, right? You tore some muscle. It has to heal. It might take more than a day for that. And if you just had a hard workout, now you're on a plane for 3 to 5 hours. It's kind of the same thing of I just woke up, I have plantar fasciitis or flash fasciosis, excuse me, and I just took my first 5 steps. It's a rough time, and then it warms up and it feels better. It's a very similar effect. Obviously, you're not like injured, but I would say don't be afraid to do maybe like before the flight, get a lacrosse ball or foam roller, like hit the spot.
Yes.
Even afterwards, hit it like I would, but right afterward, it's gonna be stiff. You get up, but like right after, waiting for your baggage claim, get that lacrosse ball out, and then I like really hard foam rollers with like knobs on them. Like I would hit that problem spot with some myofascial or whatever lacrosse ball, tennis ball, whatever you got.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Well, anyway, so I want to share the result of doing that.
Oh yeah, what's the result? You got like a Whoop or something? How'd you track it?
Um, Really just by how I felt, right? I've traveled enough to know like how bad it is sometimes.
Hmm.
So I did a workout the day I got to Boston because I was just coaching, I wasn't racing.
Okay.
I was there a couple days. I did a workout when I got back. Man, best feeling workouts travel wise day after that I've had. Like
Good.
I really feel like if you know some of our listeners and run free athletes struggle with recovery and travel,
Hmm.
it's an incredible protocol. And I think it takes a particular mindset. Like the hardest thing that I found doing that was being slow enough in these transition periods to not feel like I had to hurry to get there.
Hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
leaving myself enough time at the airport, getting there early enough. And then after I got off the flight, realizing that if I arrive at my hotel 30 minutes later or 20 or 15 minutes later,
Hmm.
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. And same with coming home. Like that honestly was the hardest part is I just wanted to skip it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to say, you
Yeah.
know what? Just
Yeah.
go, just skip it.
Yeah.
But I really could feel that blood just drain from my legs, and my legs felt so much better. So that's kind of what I love about like application type things is like the feeling. And I have no idea if you could measure it any other
I'm sure there's
way.
a way. I'm sure like with a Whooper, like they got like Aura ranks. I'm sure there's a way to like do that and do nothing. Just like what
It,
we call like, have you seen the raw dogging? Have you seen that on airplanes?
no,
They essentially
what is that?
there's a Seinfeld episode. I remember watching it when I was a kid. They just like the guy, I think Elaine's like, he's just Elaine's date, or I forgot the guy's name, but he's just sitting there on the plane, just staring straight ahead, doing nothing. She's like, "Do you want a book?" He's like, "No, I'm good."
Oh, that's putty.
Yeah. So like that's if you want to raw dog it, just like don't do anything. Just I don't know, run Boston, run your race, go home. You could probably track some of the recovery data on Aura or Whoop, and then do your thing, Jay. That would be a way to see like if you want to do some research to see if it actually, especially if it's just you right, you
Dude,
know your body.
I had such a good experience doing it this way.
You can go back.
I don't think I could possibly stomach it, like,
Yeah.
raw dogging it, as you say. Um, so I actually had lacrosse ball written down too as
Okay.
um something that I think is kind of revolutionary to me as an athlete. So I got this like thought process from our core strength mobility 1% coach Mitch several years ago,
Mhm.
and then you've reinforced it, and I've made it part of my daily routine. Every day when I wake up before I go run, I'm hitting that lacrosse ball on the bottom of my foot, and it's basically
Yeah.
solved. I mean, it's basically solved 99% of foot issues for me.
Wow.
And
Good.
so I know there's a research study I read several years ago about hamstring uh, flexibility and like proprioception with the lacrosse ball.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, like how like if you release the foot, the hamstring gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a while. I saw that too. It was making the rounds on social media like it was like 2 months ago. I didn't like dive into it. I mean, just off the top of my head, what I think's happened there. It's probably two things. You're probably gonna get like a neural response where like our body wants to feel stable on the ground, and a lot of us are just kind of living on the either outside edge of our foot, or sometimes if you're like really overpronate, like you have a flatter, more like hypermobile foot, you're kind of living on that inside edge, and you're really just kind of caved in. If you release the foot, I mean, lots of things happen. Like you're gonna improve blood flow to the arch muscles. You're gonna help turn the arch muscles on. It's gonna give you some more body awareness. It helps. that foot find a stable position. So there's other things too. Like there's a fascial connection between the hamstrings and the bottom. Like there's tissue that goes all the way from the hamstrings to the calf, wraps underneath the heel, and goes to attaches and becomes kind of that plantar fascia area. There could be an effect on that as well of just like there's right the fascia is innervated by nerves and it just you sense that. I think that has a part in it, but it might just be hey, our foot now feels very stable on the ground, and our body's like, oh, this is comfortable. Now we can go into this. So yeah, instead of just cranking on your hamstrings, let's give the foot a little bit more attention. Yeah, the foot's wild, man. I do want to actually I want to look into that why that happens. Those are my two guesses though. I think there's a fascial connection, which we know is there. Like if you improve your like this is why you release the calf, it helps with plantar fascia issues. Like it helps the foot. Like if you have a nice mobile calf, that tends to help a lot of foot issues. But you can go higher because there is that fascial connection. So I think it's those two things. I think it could be a neurofascial thing with just your body. Just you put that pressure there, and your body's like, ooh, now there's less tension in the fascia maybe, or just it senses that. But I think it's more of the foot is stable or more stable position. Now our body feels more comfortable bending over and getting into a deeper position. I'm more towards that end of it, but it by all means could be the fascial connection as well.
Yeah. So I spend 2 to 3 minutes, sometimes more. Like I actually changed from counting reps and timing stuff
Hmm.
to a lot more like trying to feel it and being like, okay,
Okay.
where is my body today? Where is my foot today? Do I need to spend a little bit more time before I go run on a particular area? Or, or did I start with the lacrosse ball in the morning and man, my foot just feels solid. I feel great. I'm ready to rock and roll. Okay,
Yeah, that's
do
good.
I can do 30 seconds or a minute and I'm like, all right, check on that. Let's move on to the next thing. So what would be kind of like a general, foot time frame?
Mhm.
Like where would you even hit the lacrosse ball first? Is there something else you would do differently?
Yeah, the crossball is great because it's like you just smash it and not think about it. I always want to bring like awareness to things. Like when you're running, I love checking in with my body. How am I feeling? Recently, I've been doing more work with myself of like I rotate more one way that like my body when we run, I rotate more one way than the other way. And as I'm fixing that, I'm like, oh, I don't push as much off. I don't push as far back on one. Like I'm finding imbalances in myself. So I'm always a fan of like you don't have to like I'm focusing so hard on it, but it's a nice relaxed. I'm checking in with my body occasionally when I'm running, and oh, I kind of noticed this. Let me see if I can work on that. It's not we're not overthinking it. Remember, I think Ryan Hall talked about that the last one. Like running's not this just you're not trying to. I'm gonna think so hard about it. Like relax. Running has to be relaxed. But when it comes to foot, what are some things we can do to like get the foot active and turned on? There's a few things that just give us a lot of bang for our buck. Release the foot for sure. That tends to help with like most people. I haven't actually brought a foot model too, but most people, Jay, they're more like they have a hard time finding the big toe. So I'm a big
Mm,
fan of let's do some big toe anchoring, which is just we're not trying to scrunch the toes, right? We're not trying to like we're grabbing. It's more just you're pressing it into the ground. So that last toe joint shouldn't like bend. It should just be like you're pressing it down. I'm a huge fan of standing and just pressing the big toe into the ground. That muscle, there's a lot of like, I think we were talking about this the other day, but like certain muscles and even the ligaments, like that's what gives us the arch. People think it's a lot of like, there is passive stability by all means, but if we can get the arch active, like certain ways, the arch muscles, they cross diagonally, some go horizontally, getting all of them active, that's what gives us an arch. And, so I guess go in my soapbox for a second, but right, if you have a low arch, you have a neutral arch, or a high arch, Jay, it doesn't really. I mean, unless there's very rare. There's the extremes that are like, okay, maybe we have to do some orthotic work, but arches are just like eye colors. I got brown. Looks like you have brown
yep.
eyes. Like a different mixes. If you have a higher arch, yeah, your foot might be a little more stiff. We have to get your arches turned on to teach your foot to be a shock absorber and then re-stiffen. And again, that happens, Jay, in like on the fast end, it's like 0.15 seconds. And on the slow end, it's like, and the slower run, it's like 0.3, and the slowest point
So,
second.
so I've got something that totally backs up what you're saying. So I coached
Yeah,
for
yeah.
10 years in college, and one of our sprinters was like a 10-4
Mhm.
100 guy in college, which is really pretty good for a small school. Like he would win nationals at NAI. Dude, he
Wow.
had the flattest feet you've ever seen.
Yeah,
Arches
yeah,
just
yeah.
touching the ground. But he was so powerful. There was so much recoil in his legs, and
Yep.
everything was just wound. Even though his arch was flat, his
Mhm.
foot was still wound super tight, and it would get really stiff
Yeah,
when he would go through the drive phase. And then I had another kid that was a distance runner, had super high arches,
yeah,
slowest kid on the team,
yeah.
you know? And so I think you're right. Like when you see different foot types that accomplish a goal
Mhm.
of, creating rigidity or not producing power, you do start to understand, hey, don't think of yourself as, oh, I'm flat-footed, I'm doomed,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
or
yeah.
I've got this beautiful arch, I'm set. Like you actually
No.
have to create usable forces, and that can be totally different for different people. But
Yep.
you can be fine no matter where your arch is. Don't use that as like an excuse or a proud moment.
Yeah, and yeah, just going back, like that's a good example, Jay, of like, yeah, get the flattest foot in the world and still be this amazing sprinter. It's like, objectively, we used to measure this like in the PT world as I think it was a sit to stand test where you'd sit down, measure the arch height from the highest point, we call it the navicular bone, and then you stand up. How much does that drop? And we're find out like the static tests really don't tell us much. I want to know, what is your foot doing when you're actively jumping and running, even walking? Like the foot goes through that. Initially, you hit the ground. It pronates. Like pronation is normal. It's a good thing. It's if I throw a water balloon at you, Jay, you're gonna catch it and kind of cushion it. You're not just gonna leave your arms like the balloon's gonna break. So that's our body saying we're gonna absorb some shock. And then very quickly, I mean, again, it happens like 0.15 to zero point 0.3 seconds. It's super quick. And then when we push off, it re-stiffens. So if we know, like myself, I have a flatter foot. My foot's very hypermobile. I have to work on really activating my arches to help to go through the proper amount of pronation and not do an excessive amount of just flattening and just like my foot's more of I have a problem with just I have too much. I have my shock absorbers aren't very strong and they just flatten really quick. So I have to work on, in my case, I want to get my arch muscles turned on to have a foot that is optimally shock absorbing and not just just splaying out and kicking out and causing a whole host of issues. So a big roundabout way, Jay, going back to what can we do to like improve our foot health, whether you have a high or low arch, or neutral, it matters to you, because if we could just do a few things to turn your arch on, it's going to help. My favorite is
Yep.
big toe press downs. You can release it with the cross ball. I'm a big fan of. It's called the short foot exercise, and I don't know if I can show it on here, but like your arch muscles, they're on the bottom of the foot. There's like I believe there's 4 layers, and you have the plantar fascia all the way on the outside. They all move the toes around. Most of them, their job is to move the toes, but the secret job that we don't tell you about is they all, instead of moving the toes, if they contract, they'll pull the heel and the
Yep.
ball of the foot together. So essentially, they will raise like if they all contract isometrically and the toes don't move, they'll shorten the foot and raise the arch up. And this is actually very apparent in like when women get pregnant. I think there's a lot going on. There's hormones, there's weight gain, but their feet tend to flatten. I think it's because of all these things. There's probably some excessive joint laxity and their increase in weight. Well, they're like, why did I gain a half size of my shoe? Well, your arch muscles they're getting fatigued, right? They have extra load on them. There's probably a lot of hormonal things going on. Like that arch just said, man, I can't hold this up anymore, and it just flattens out. And all now ligaments things get stretched out more than they should. Um, so I was talking to my wife, who's the pelvic floor PT. I'm like, we should be giving anybody who's pregnant, they should be doing some foot activation to try to. It's just like any other muscle. If I do bicep curls, my biceps are going to get fatigued eventually. So it's just the arch is like any other muscle. We have to give it some attention. And I know you wear Hokas, Jay. I don't care if you're wearing barefoot shoes, you're wearing Hokas. That Hokas they help your foot move. That your foot doesn't have to work as hard, right? Love it or hate it. You can run whatever you want to run in, but we should all still be doing some level of foot activation, because even in a marathon, you wear Hokas, your foot is going to it still has to work, and it can still fatigue on you. So doing some of those foot activation, the short foot is hands down. It's the Cadillac of foot exercise. Do the short foot exercise. It's going to get every single arch muscle. It should get every single arch muscle activated.
So what are you doing with that? Are you just consciously pulling your arch up and letting it down?
Yeah, it's hard to sometimes it's hard to start it. When I first tried to do this in college, I learned about it. I'm like, I couldn't do it. I was cheating. Like other tendons were trying to take over. So yeah, all it is I start seated, no weight on it, and you're trying to I look at my like big toe and I actually press it down first, and then I'm trying to just shorten
Yeah, I can
like
do
kind of
it.
like shorten like a half size. Lots of
Yeah,
times though, like there's tendons in the ankle that might like you'll see them
that
pop up.
prevent it. Yeah,
You want those tendons to try to relax. You want the foot to be doing the work for you.
yeah. No, I actually have the Hokas as a topic for
Uh,
in a minute. Like I think I understand your thought process really well and the application with that fairly well also. But so I have another question about this body awareness. Like you mentioned, like being aware of how you're moving.
yeah.
And I think that's a delicate topic in running. And I think the reason is I've encountered some people
Mhm.
that, dude, they just need to run. Like
Yeah, yeah. Gotta get out there.
they're too type A. And once as a coach, if I tell them, hey, you're rotating here more or you're doing this there more,
Yeah.
like I'm talking, they will go down like a sticky place
Oh my gosh.
and
Yeah.
obsess over it. They'll over obsess over it to the
Mhm.
point where I've seen athletes try to force degrees of motion in joints through like aggressive scraping and like forcing that joint motion
Yeah.
instead of following like the prescribed path of doing exercises and mobility in a like a conscientious like slow long-term type mentality.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And so I think sometimes what I try to do if I see something is gauge the athlete's personality and then give them the thing to do without
Yeah.
necessarily over identifying why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Be-
Sneak it in there.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's really important as a coach to sneak it in there for some people because I
Yeah.
mean you're talking about people that will run 100 miles on a stress fracture.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know, I
Let's just
mean
push it. Yeah.
that's weird. That's weird that you're at that high level. It's like this, uh, unsafe, mentally ill, high level of tolerance.
Yeah.
So I think just paying attention to that. But then you have the other people who can take it in, think about it, make an adjustment. But yeah, I think what
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
said was totally right about we're looking for fluidity in running even if
Yeah.
even if we have some kind of like there's this guy Moses Kiptanui, I think was his name.
Mhm.
Um and he ran with one arm like way up here and one down here.
Hmm.
And you know why he did that? Because he ran to school every day with his backpack as a kid.
Yeah.
And so like at some point too, he's like a 203 marathoner. Like,
Yeah.
dude,
Like, yeah. Do you want to change that? Probably not.
we
Like,
don't need to mess with that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you're not touching that. And that's the thing too. Like, I think so, at least what I've done, it's very easy to go down that route, Jay, of like, hey, just like rotate more. That tends not to work well. It's what cues work well is like, I think how you approach it is half the battle. Like, you can't make
Yeah.
someone like worried about it. It's like, hey,
Yep.
man, I think you're crushing it. Like, things look really good. I just noticed this one little thing. Like, it's not a huge deal, but try to focus on like, hey, you have this laser pointer coming out your belly button. Try to have that laser pointer point towards the foot that hits the ground. Like
Yeah.
you got to give them like something to like imagine.
Yep, yep. Or
Um,
like I have a guy right now, high school kid that's running like this chin, pointing to the sky.
hmm,
And I've been giving him the cue, hey, make your chin parallel with the ground. Like that's all we're going to think about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Give him
Like,
something simple.
like I'm not telling him to get his head down, because get your head down, you're going to look down, like chin, and keep that head moving like in a straight plane. So no, I totally agree with you. Like those cues and like knowing the person is
Yeah.
absolutely paramount, because you could say one thing and they'll misinterpret it and do something completely different, which is crazy, but it
Oh yeah.
happens all the time. So I do want to hit on the shoes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I want to explain like what I've thought about with super shoes. I actually heard a quote today. Do you know Des Linden, marathoner for Brooks,
It
lady?
sounds familiar. I've heard the
She
name before.
she
Yeah. Yeah.
just retired. She ran 226 at Boston, and
Wow.
she's like 43. She's Sarah Hall's age, I think. I think they're the same age. But
Wow.
she ran 226, and Sarah also ran 226. I can't remember who was in front of who, but so Des retired, and I read a quote. She said that part of her, I don't know if this was part of her retirement or if it was a separate quote, but she was quoted saying something like, um, super shoes ruined the integrity of the sport, or the sport, or something. I actually
Yeah.
should find it and get the exact quote so I don't misquote her. But um, it was fascinating to me because uh, I almost have the opposite opinion when it comes to that.
Mhm.
And so the reason I have the opposite opinion is because man, without super shoes, I've said this to so many people.
Mhm.
Without super shoes, and comfortable shoes, I
Yeah.
don't believe I would still be running. Like it
Yeah.
has given me that next level of life. Okay, so she said, super shoes took away the core meaning of the sport. And she had a great quote. I'm totally not bashing her. I love Des Linden. She
Yeah.
said, "On the decision to retire, retiring is like having your favorite dog get near the end. It's hard to know when to make the call and how to do it with dignity. But I wouldn't ask someone else to come in and tell me when to put my dog down. So I'm not going to ask anyone when I should stop my professional career." So
Yeah.
mega props to her. Like she's
Yeah.
an amazing
That's
person.
a good quote.
Love her. Love Des Linden. Always been a huge fan. But I think here's where I sit with the super shoes and the soft shoes. Um, I feel like you are totally right on the integrity of the foot. Like we've got to do things that challenge the integrity of the foot, the mobility of the foot. Those intrinsic muscles have to work well. They have to move well. We've got to do all those things. But the reality is, going back to personality as a people, the
Mhm.
reality is, I'm 44 and I'm still running 60 to 80 miles a week. I've been doing that for 30 years. I'd love to do it another 10 or 15 years.
Mhm.
I'm going to do it despite anything with my body. I'm going to figure out a way to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That also means that I'm going to be running on the hardest surface that man's ever created all the time.
Yes.
And I'm going to be running a lot of days really, really hard. I do plyos, I lift, I like bounce a lot, jump rope a lot. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of stress on my feet. The soft shoes and the super shoes get that stress away from my feet. Like if I were to run 60 to 80 in minimalist shoes, or even shoes, I'm talking about even from the 90s. Dude, those shoes sucked. They
Yeah.
were absolutely terrible for running 80 miles a week. And
Yeah.
when I talk to the pros, when I talk to, anyone who's running massive volume
Mhm.
and staying healthy, they're like, dude, the shoes are keeping me healthy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think in a sense, what's happening is the soft shoes, the plates, those things are just cushioning the body to the point where you can handle this stupid, ridiculous stress we're putting on it
Yeah.
But if you're doing it right and you are, you know, doing big toe into the ground and working on raising your arches and you're doing plyos and you're lifting barefoot, like a lot of us try to
Yeah.
lift barefoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do all those things outside of the sport. And then you can go to the sport and you can get those soft shoes. Like I'll give you a great example. So I did this race called the Athens Twilight,
Hmm.
where you run a 5K in the morning and you qualify, and
Oh
then
yeah.
you run
Yeah.
a mile in the evening. I did that race 22 years ago. And I remember I was trashed after that race
Yeah.
because it's really hilly on both courses are hilly. And I ran in like hyper speeds, like the Asics, hyper speed, which are
Yeah.
paper thin. There's
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing to them. There's no arch support. There's no nothing. This year I did it in the Alpha Flies. Dude, I did that Saturday. I had one of my best workouts of the year today.
Yeah.
3 days later. Could
Yeah.
not have done that back then. So
Yeah.
that's my caveat there is if you're just going to wear the super shoes and you're going to totally ditch all your other stuff, I think you're probably right. You're headed down a weird path. But if you're going to do the stuff and you have some time not in super shoes and not in super soft,
Yeah.
then I think you're fine. And then there's that weird area where if you run 20 miles a week and you're, the local legend in the community runner, you may
Mhm.
not even need super shoes. So I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
interested to
Yeah.
hear like your reply framing it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Let me if I get off a tangent, Jay, bring me back to like the body as a shock absorber. Don't let me forget that.
Yeah.
I'll talk
Yeah.
about feet,
Yeah.
then I want to talk about the body as a shock absorber. So the yeah, think of like how do I say this? I guess the two big things I think everyone should be doing, right? Whether you want to wear high stack shoes, you're like, hey, I run minimal or I have ultras or whatever you run in. The two things I think everyone should be doing, it's it's doing foot activation, what we just talked about. Like get your foot active, whether that's a few times a week, it's every day. What if you have an injury to your plantar fascia or you have a foot issue? I'd recommend every single day because it's going to help you. But the second thing is, and some people I might get a little pushback on this, it's walking in minimal style shoes. And the research,
Oh, I totally agree with
yeah,
that.
very clear on this. Like if you want to, the best, like if you improve your arch activation, your arch muscles get thicker, the volume goes up, they get stronger. If you just walk around in a minimal,
Yep.
in a Vivo or a Zero, I like Zero because I don't know, I don't think a minimal shoe should cost $200. I just like there's no
Yeah.
foam in it. I don't know why it's so expensive. But if whatever you want to wear, Vivo Zero, that's also like just walking around in that has been shown to improve arch strength.
So let me say something about that real quick and I'll let you keep going is
Yeah,
one of the changes I made in the last couple of years is do I wear sandals as much as I can.
yeah,
And there's essentially nothing to my sandals. I mean, it's just, I mean, they're
yeah,
flat. I've squished them down some, so there's a little bit of contour just in my own foot shape.
yeah,
But I think that's contributed to my foot health. So I totally agree with you,
yeah,
like
yeah.
balancing out this dynamic of uh, being able to save your foot when you're really getting after it, and then doing healthy foot things when you're not.
Yeah, and like to me, I'm like, what's the 20% we could do to get 80% of the benefit? It's those two things. It's lace up. Where I get it. If you're a nurse and you're on concrete all day, okay, I get it. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
I would say try to activate your arches and then give it a shot. Like in the new book I've been working on for the past year, Jay. That's what I recommend. Is like if you just go from nothing, like you wearing high stack shoes, walking, running, and you try to walk in barefoot shoes, sometimes it might be a little bit too much and we have to just get the foot active. But I think most people listening to this probably can do A, get your foot active, B, get a pair of flat shoes, no heel lift in them, and be able to walk around in them.
Yeah, and you could titrate that in too. Like I'm thinking about that nurse you mentioned. Like, if you got a 12 or 14-hour shift, I mean, that's almost like
It's a lot.
that's all dude, that's almost like you're competing in a mini, well, and if you're overweight,
Yeah, it
like
doesn't help. Yeah,
that's almost like you're competing in a little mini endurance event, 3 or 4 days a week. But
Mhm.
you could bring two pair of shoes or start out the day in one and switch to the other when your feet hurt. Like definitely if your feet are killing you in one, you can switch to the other and
Yeah.
activate and go back and forth and like work it in. So yeah, I think it's funny because I think this is I think this is the closest you and I have been on this topic as we've
Oh
known
yeah.
each other.
Yeah, I know we butt heads on this before.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's the most interesting conversations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like and I think about you sometimes when I'm like, "Oh yeah." But then I'm like, "I know this is true and Matt knows this is true. These
Mhm.
things have to work together because
Yeah.
Matt's a smart dude. He knows his stuff. And I'm like, I've also been doing this a really long time and I'm healthy at 44. I'm
Yeah.
doing, I'm doing,
There's something to it. There's something to
doing
it.
something right. So yeah, I think this is the closest we've been on this.
And I do want to bring up one thing that there is one issue. Like I have zeros on now. Like there was one issue with even walking these, you're gonna get the benefit. Running it, like think about like when you're running. I think when you walk, I believe it's like 1.5 times your body weight. When you're running, it's easily two times and 2.5 times. Like there's more stress on your entire body when you're running. Like that's why, like yeah, the cushion is it's doing the work for you. Like it's gonna help you. That's why it's much easier and much lower risk of injury or having issues just walking in them. The only issue is like there's three things that activate that give us the arch of the foot. That is passively, there's ligaments, there is the plantar fascia, and that stuff senses and responds to like when you hit the ground, whether you're running or walking, it senses the foot splaying. So when your foot splays, this ligament stretch, they tell your brain we're stretching, and your brain says, okay, turn the arch on. So
Yep.
you want to have like most barefoot shoes, they're wide anyway. So you really want to make sure you have the forefoot can
Room.
spread. Like there's
Yeah.
room for the foot to spread. Passively, like that's kind of a neuro thing, but passively we have ligaments. Actively, we have like the muscle contraction, right? Where that arch muscle is gonna, right? It slows down pronation and then it re-stiffens the arch on push off. Like the arch is a big part of it. The muscles, excuse me, are a big part of it. But the third part, Jay, is neuro. It's a neuro. It's our nerve.
Connection.
It's
Yep.
that
Your
connection
nervous
between it.
system connection.
Which
Yeah.
there is a connection between the muscle. The muscles sense a stretch. The ligaments we kind of talked about it already. They sense the stretch. And they say, "Hey, we're stretching. We're going through pronation. We should get ready to stiffen up and contract." But the one part of neuro that we don't talk about a lot is actually the foot. Like if my bare foot sensing the ground. Like if I'm walking on grass, I'm gonna feel everything. If I'm barefoot, I feel the different knobs. I feel the blades of grass. I feel I'm feeling the uneven surface, and that essentially the cutaneous nerves, the nerves that sense hot, cold, all of that vibration, pressure, that actually turns the arch on. It sends a signal that says, hey, we're getting our foot wants feedback. We're getting all this feedback. I don't know. I forgot how many nerve endings. It's like hundreds of thousands of nerve endings on the bottom of the foot. There's a lot. So have you ever seen those like fatigue pads you can step on? Like if you're like, I don't know, when I was in Universal Studios last year, the guy could get into
Oh yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
He
Yeah.
was no, instead of standing there doing nothing, he was standing on this pad that had
Yeah.
some knobs on it. That's literally the research that says, and it helps with foot pain because now your foot is like, ooh, I'm feeling things. I want to turn the arch on. The arch is doing what it's supposed to do there. Instead of statically, you're sitting there. It's not doing anything. It fatigues out very quickly. So the research behind it, that's what it is. And I'm not trying to sell these, but I wear these in my barefoot shoes. They're called Barefoot Science insoles. They're a little pricey. I think they're like $90, but the guy who owns the company sent these to me for free. He's like, hey, try these. I'm like, it helps me activate my arches in my foot. Essentially, your foot, it's not an orthotic. It's just, I sense this little bump here and
Yep.
it helps turn it's like having that little mat, but now it's in my shoe. So it just helps
Yeah.
my foot turn on. So that's the big thing that if someone's having problems like walking barefoot or in a barefoot shoe, I'm like, get the Barefoot Science insole, throw it in there. Um,
Yeah. No, that's great.
there's a podiatrist near me. His name's Dr. Mark Cucuzella, brilliant guy. He worked at the VA. I mean, he could do all this fancy stuff with them, but he's got 15 minutes with a veteran, right? Like, what is he gonna do? I think he's a functional med doc. Anytime he has a foot issue, he's like, hey, take those insoles, put them in, and like every time they work. His shoe store, he's never had them returned. So I'm not a big fan of orthotics. There's a time and place. Typically, all they do is that you sense the orthotic and it turns your arch on. So
Yeah.
having some barefoot time is great, but if someone's really having a problem with barefoot shoes, hey, try these insoles. It's not
No, that's
orthotic. It
great.
helps turn that arch on.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like when you walk on like pebbles or grass, on like pebbles or grass or something, like you get that proprioception response. I mean, I think that's why we like lifting barefoot too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, you
heavy
feel the
lifting
ground
barefoot, you
better.
feel it. You just have to make sure you're not doing it on like concrete or like some surface that is going to cause another issue. Like it needs to be
Yeah,
some kind of surface that's somewhat forgiving, like a rubber mat
yeah, you gotta
or
have like a
yeah,
rubber floor.
yeah, like a rubber floor. So I want to say something else about super shoes that I have yet to see this research, and I
Mhm.
don't know if anyone's done it. If any listener has it, please let us know or seen it. But I have this thought process that what we think is happening inside of a super shoe
Mhm.
at high speeds is not necessarily what is actually happening. And the reason I say that is when you run really fast in super shoes,
Mhm.
they do not feel really soft.
You'll feel hard.
They feel really responsive.
Yeah.
And so here's my thought process with super shoes. Because you've essentially got the hardest surface that has ever been in a shoe surrounded by two soft surfaces, right? You've got this carbon fiber plate that if you took that carbon fiber plate and you took away both of those soft surfaces, man, that thing would hurt
Yeah, would not
real
feel
it would hurt
good.
real bad.
Yeah.
It's inflexible. It would hurt and you would not feel good. But because you got these two soft surfaces surrounding it, when you run real fast, you push through the soft surfaces and you actually do get to the harder surface, but you only get to it for a brief amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we know that our body is very good at intermittent stresses.
Mhm.
It's very bad at constant stresses. Like if you raise your heart rate to 180 beats per minute all day long, you die,
You're gonna have a rough
right?
time. It's gonna be rough.
Or your blood pressure goes to 300 over 100. But we do these things every day when we work out. We
Yeah.
just do them
And
for
they go up.
small amounts of time. And so my theory is that what's actually happening is super shoes are allowing us to reach a harder surface for a shorter amount of time
Mhm.
and do it over and over again, and push off harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can push through the ground better. You can complete your stride motion better. And inside the shoe, people argue that there's not as much toe flexion, but you have two soft surfaces with a hard surface there.
Mhm.
Like when I run fast, I feel like my toes flexing just as much as in another shoe. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
just flexing inside of the soft portion. And then the plate does flex, but it
Mhm.
flexes fast. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would I would love to see I would love to see somebody really look at that.
Yeah.
And
Think I think when I this is a couple years ago, but either Jada Cherry did research on it or what someone he knows did. But I remember him telling me that the what was it? It was the you got more like the only thing that ever like shoe companies have been trying to say this for years. That like, oh, this new technology is going to give you energy return. That's
yeah,
never happened until super shoes. Like they're actually giving you an energy return. You
yeah,
get more energy return the faster you run. So like slower
yeah.
runners, they don't get as much out of the super
That's
shoe.
right. Yep, I
Yeah.
knew that. Yep.
So
And
essentially what
and
you're saying, Jay, sorry, go ahead.
and also lighter runners get less. So they did a
Yeah,
men's
yeah, yeah.
women's
That makes
study,
sense.
and the women that wore super shoes, they essentially ran faster. And that's obviously not true at the pro level. This was like everyday runners. Like
Yeah.
the slower you go, the more the weight mattered. The fact
Oh, I
that they were
see.
just
Yeah, yeah.
light. And so, but the heavier you are and the harder you push off and the faster you go, yeah, the more energy return you get.
Yeah. So I mean, I think what you're trying to say, Jay, is like the faster you run, like if you run faster, you hit the ground harder. Like that's physics. So if you're hitting the ground harder, you're deforming the plate, like you're going to stress the
Yes,
plate more, and the plate's going to recoil. The plate's recoiling and giving you more energy. So
that's
that's
right.
probably what you're feeling. You're able to like that split second feel the plate.
Yep.
You're like, this is really hard, but it's probably good because you get more energy return out of it. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what you
Yeah.
want.
So anyway, I just feel like super shoes are not as unhealthy as they're made out to be if they're used correctly. And you don't do every run in them, and they're used for racing and faster workouts. And you use them when
Yeah.
you're running fast. Okay, so I got one more question,
Yeah. Yeah.
or actually two more. Um, so you know how big of a fan I am of isometrics. We've talked about that before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I feel like isometric work has like totally changed my body and how I feel and how I respond to impact.
Hmm.
The ancillary benefit of this that I'm trying to push into, and this is really the question I have, is so I follow this guy. I think we talked about him. Do you know this guy named Anatoly? He's
I
he
I think
pretends to
so.
he pretends to be a janitor.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yep. Yep.
talking
Yep.
about?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I totally could be butchering this, what he actually does on a regular basis, because I've listened to only a couple things of his, but he was talking about lifting for strength as opposed to lifting for size.
Hmm.
And basically the recommendation, if I had to like boil it way down, was he was saying we need to lift more often with heavy weight, but less sets and reps. So you've got like a warm up, a build up, and then you've got
Yeah.
two really heavy sets. But you might be able to hit that same muscle group the following day. So it's not
I
like
see.
this,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not like this old model of you go to the gym for an hour, you're completely wrecked. And then
Hmm.
you come out of the gym, you don't lift again for 2 days. So I've been implementing this with my own running because I test everything on myself
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
kicks and giggles, and finding out if it works or not. Um, and I've been doing like some multiple day in a row leg curls, hamstring curls, deadlift, but I'm only doing limited sets. And then on those days, I'm also doing some isometrics to just support it. But I've
Yeah.
been way less sore. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm getting stronger. And I'm just curious, like the physiology side, like,
Yeah. What's
and
happening?
also my gym sessions, they only take 15 to 20 minutes, but I'm doing them every day.
Yeah, that's good.
So what are your thought on that model? Like the basic idea would be, hey, you can squat, you can do pull-ups, you can do,
Mhm.
calf raises, you can do them 3-4 days a week. And obviously I'm not doing everything every day because I'm trying to hit different stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? But I've got a couple routines where I'm hitting like a lot of the same muscle groups on subsequent days and even days before workouts. But it's just such a small snippet. I'm just curious, like,
Yeah.
what's your take on that? Have you ever heard about anybody doing that? Like, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
it's almost like like take a classic bodybuilder, right? Like their goal is like to build muscle hypertrophy, which we use in the physio world. Like you get a muscle bigger, it's going to create joint stability. Like we got knee pain, we get your muscle bigger, and we get some fatigue resistance. It's gonna help things. Think of that as like you are. Let's say I do bicep curls, 30 pounds. Then I don't know, I can do a bunch of sets of that. Maybe I do like a drop set where I do 30 pounds of failure, then 20 pounds of failure, then 15 pounds of failure. So what we're doing is we're just building up all this metabolic waste in the muscle, and fluid will follow that. So essentially, you're training your body, your muscles to say, we're gonna resist fatigue, and it's like almost like you're trying to resist fatigue, and all the muscle fiber types are fatigued out. So your muscles they're all just gonna get bigger. But with running is a little bit different, where you're not really like this is like you ever done the Echo bike or the assault bike, Jay? Like that bike.
Yeah,
Most runners I know suck at that. When I
yeah,
went from all I did was run to finally starting trying to do CrossFit and more strength training, I was horrible at it because there's no like you don't really get a lot of elastic. You get some rotation. There's no like elastic recoil. Like biking, there's not a lot of that in biking. Running, it's all recoil. It's all this like my leg goes behind me and then I'm rotating one way and then I recoil. A lot of it, like there's a lot of free energy in running. Our goal is to optimize free energy. But there's also a lot of power with that. If we know that when we spend, I don't know, 0.15 to zero point 0.3 seconds on the ground, we got to be training. We're not really trying to like build fit. Yes, we do want to resist fatigue. We kind of get that from our running workouts though. Like really when we're running, we hit the ground forcefully and powerfully. So if we want to train that as a runner, like instead of doing this, I'm just going to do a bunch of like squats, 20 squats to failure. First of all, that's a lot of work. It's going to take you a while to do that for 5 sets. Second of all, now you're going to work out in a way that it's probably going to interfere with your, like, you're going to be so sore from squatting, it's going to interfere with the running. Like we get tissue breakdown when we run. Now you're getting more tissue breakdown when you're squatting. I mean, it's not that you can never do that. Sometimes, like when I have a couple runners that we're doing strength training with, I'm like, listen, you've never squatted before. I'm not going to have you do these high weight
Yeah.
velocity stuff. Like we're going to get some higher reps. And you might be a little bit fatigued at the end, but eventually we're going to be like, I have a runner today where we just started doing these like higher, quicker hamstring stuff. But I've been working with her for like 4 months. I'm like, we're at that point where now we can do it after doing some slower hamstring curls.
Yeah.
So it takes some, you got to get there first. You got to earn the right to go fast and powerful and strong. But yeah, essentially, instead of just like breaking, like if you're going to tear, like when you do that, first of all, you're training your muscles to like fatigue, essentially get muscle fatigue resistance through a full range of motion. When we're running, our muscles actually contract very isometrically. The tendons and fascia are doing a lot of the work. That's why the isometrics work so well. But we also have to train them to hit the ground forcefully and quickly. So the great thing is we can do that without building all this tissue fatigue. We get that tissue fatigue from our training. We don't have to build it into our lifting. So a lot of runners that I see who I do the strength training for, like a lot of them we're still on. We still do like Bulgarian split squats. So we're still getting heavy with those. Eventually, it's like, all right, now we can do the fun stuff because, like, hey, you never lifted before. We have to build this up first before we can do all the fast and the fun stuff that you've been doing, Jay.
So if I think about this right, like you said something that like lit my brain up with that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like really the isometric work is our fatigue resistance because a lot of running is waiting to push off. Like you're hitting the ground, you're going through the mid stance, and then you're hitting push off. And then the heavier lifting is more about learning to produce that force. And that's what like that force word like slotted in. And here's the other thing that I think is happening. If you can lift more often as a runner, lift heavier, but less sets, and you don't hit like huge levels of fatigue during your lifting.
Yeah.
I think what's happening and what you experience is the neuromuscular connection.
Yeah, exactly. Like the difference in the CrossFit and running. This is why, like, I went from running, trying to do CrossFit, and I sucked at everything besides running because when you go into a full depth squat running, I do think some runners would benefit from full depth squats. We probably could get away with partial squats if we really wanted to, but like a full depth squat, you can bounce out of it. But if you do a slow squat and pause in the bottom and come out, I sucked at that because I was so used to using elastic recoil and it's just running, strength training for runners, it's not going to look the same as many other sports strength training because we're really, the hard work is on the running side. The strength, it's not, you don't want the strength training tail to wag the running dog. Like we're strength training so we can continue to run. Like if you want to get bigger and stronger, like if you want to do some stuff for the upper body and get a little bigger, that's fine. And I know sometimes like I think my brother-in-law, he made a joke once of like, what was it? It was like, oh yeah, look at Ryan Hall. He's all big in the top, and then he's got skinny legs. And I'm like, yeah, because you ran for so many years, dude. Like,
actually, I'll say this: like his calves are skinny, but I think that's like a genetic. Like I've read about how hard it is to grow your lower legs.
Yeah,
like
it's not easy
genetically, but dude, his quads are solid. Like he's got really strong like hamstrings and quads proportionally. So what I was going to say about the force production too is that you mentioned is not going into the weight room as a runner and doing CrossFit. Like, and that's not to say I've got a couple athletes that do CrossFit and they're doing it as we're scheduling it in with their training. So it
Yeah.
makes
Yeah. Yeah.
sense. But what you wouldn't want to do is do a hard workout in the morning, do CrossFit in the afternoon, because they're essentially the same thing. Like you're hitting those lactate energy systems, you're hitting your anaerobic energy system, like because there's very little rest in CrossFit. You're hitting one thing after the other. When what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
what I'm talking about doing, if you do try to lift more often, it's actually kind of fun to lift. Like because
Yeah.
you don't go in and breathe hard. At no point are you thrashed. You're just in there, you're really connecting your mind with your muscles. You're hitting
Yeah.
like a couple really good sets, moving on to something. You're doing 3 or 4 exercises and you're out of there. Like you can
Yeah.
do that way
Yeah.
more regular. So I want to say one more thing about pull-ups because I can see the pull-up bar in
Oh
the
yeah.
back.
Yeah. The squat rack.
So there's this guy that teaches pull-ups. I wish I could remember his name, but he's like a pull-up coach,
No, it's a
right?
pull-up guru.
Yeah. And I was listening to him talk about if you suck at pull-ups, he was like, you're better off doing an assisted single pull-up
Mhm.
and then stopping. And then later in the day doing another one. And then later in the day
Mhm.
doing a third one. Then you are going to the gym and busting out, 3 sets of 3 ugly pull-ups. And so I've been messing with that, playing with that, like doing a really good form pull-up
Yeah.
and doing like 2 or 3 every time. So I have a similar setup as that at
Yeah.
home. I just do like 2 or 3 when I walk by. And man, that is that same principle of lifting more often, but working on like this mind muscle connectivity instead of
Yeah.
just going in the gym and banging stuff out just to do it and then checking off your list.
Yeah.
And I've gotten
Yeah.
better. Like my pull up form is better. My awareness of how to access some of those muscles that, quite frankly, as a runner kind of suck.
Yeah. It's hard to activate the lats and traps sometimes as runners.
Yeah, but I think you my theory is you can get strength without getting mass by
Mhm.
connecting this mind and neurological system. But I don't think you can do it once a week. I think you've got to do it
Yeah.
like
You got to do it.
you got to do it fairly regularly, or you're not going to make that connection very strongly.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with like, if you want to get better at running, you have to run. You can't just, I'm going to go do the bike or I'm going to swim or I'm going to row. I'm like, I guess what? That's not the run. I call running the Cadillac of cardio because it's so much, there's so much going on with running. There's rotation, there's just so many moving parts to running, let alone walking, that I think there's a lot more complexity to running than there is because running is jumping. It's a plyometric exercise that biking and swimming and everything else is just, there's so much more, I wouldn't say demand, just there's a lot more moving parts with running. If you want to get better at it, you have to practice running. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to go hard all the time. It's just do it. It's just being consistent with it. So I do like the, yeah, now I between paces, I'm going to start doing pull-ups.
Yes. I want to
Um,
know how your pull-ups go. I'm dead serious, man. You should try that. Like you like just do one. Start with
yeah,
one solid pull-up every time you walk by. And I'm telling you that like that's what that pull-up guru said is like that's how you actually get good at them is you hit good ones, not just doing a bunch of them. They've got to be good ones. I think this is why I get so excited about conversations with people like you
hmm,
is I think every runner needs to go down the path of having people like you access to them and like learning these things, learning how to use the lacrosse ball, learning how to lift properly, learning when to do it, learning how to recover well, doing your big toe in the ground, like raising your arch, taking care of your feet. And here's why I think that they need that is all of these things you can do in the margins of your day.
yeah,
Like you don't have to go to the gym for 3 hours and knock these things out. But if you go to the airport, if you're waiting for your kid at soccer practice, if you're driving down the road and going somewhere and you're at the gas station and you stop, and like all of these things, if you learn them and like integrate them into your regular life, like they can actually be kind of fun and like something to do instead of mess with your
Yeah.
phone.
I was just gonna say that. Like instead of just scrolling on your phone, like, hey, what can I mean, I don't want people to be obsessed with it, but like, hey, if you take running seriously, what else can I do to improve my running? Do you got a little hotspot? Do a lacrosse ball release. You have some time, 15 minutes, between, I don't know if you have a home gym or a gym in the office or gym at home, like, hey, yeah, I got 20 minutes for free time. Instead of scrolling, go do like the quick hamstring exercise, do some plyos or some ice, like do something to kind of to start to move that needle in the right direction. Yeah, I think some of the strength training for runners, I think sometimes we can overcomplicate it and like overprescribe. And I think if we keep it simple, and yeah, it doesn't have to be this, I'm going to be fatigued and really tired by that. There's a time and place for that, but I think especially once we evolve and mature as a runner and can handle doing fast exercises, I do like the idea of, hey, we can do something quick. Again, do 80% that's going to get us, or 20% that's going to get us 80% the way there. Hey, I got 20 minutes. Let me do this release. Let me do this quick power exercise that could benefit me. I'm not going to. One thing too I want to add on is like running taxes your central nervous system. I got a half marathon this weekend, and I did what was it? I did like a 6 mile run, and I took a few days off. And I did that run. I'm like, I slept. I was so tired that night. I was exhausted because I haven't been running as much as I should have been. And the same thing happens if I do a lot of deadlift. Like if you give me like a deadlift workout for like again CrossFit stuff that taxes your central nervous system, you're like, I'm exhausted. So you kind of can't do hard running workout, then go do hard metcon that's cross or intervals. Like your nerve, like your hormonal system's going to get all like messed up. Like it just can't. You're not going to be able to handle it. So you have to choose your
Yeah.
battles. And if you're a runner, hey, we're going to choose the running battle.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Well, where's your half marathon?
It's in my hometown, Frederick, Maryland.
Oh, nice.
The Frederick half.
What are you hoping to do? Just do you have like a particular goal, or just out there to have fun, or what?
If I hit 7 flats, what is that, 131, whatever that time is,
Awesome.
I'm happy with that. I didn't train as much as I wanted to, but I'm like, I have a base. I'm going to build on it last week and this week. And I'm like, we'll see how, yes, I'm going to go out 7 flat. We'll see if we crash and burn or if we can maintain it.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, man, I'm so glad that we got to continue our disagreement on
The beef
no,
continues.
no, I really do think that like those conversations are like you have helped balance me out some, like with
Yeah.
that thought process of, oh yeah, there actually is a place for these um this footwear that I can't run in. And I
Yeah.
I hope I
Yeah.
hope I hope I've at least swayed you a little bit on how awesome cushion shoes are.
But I did, if someone comes in, they're like, I love Hokas. I'm like, I don't like you can run in those, that's fine. But hey, you have a balance issue, you have this plantar fascia. You can keep wearing Hokas, man, but let's do some work
We,
outside of here to get that plantar fascia.
yeah, yeah, I'm totally on board with that. That's super cool. Well, anything we missed you want to add on, or?
No, I think that's it. Do you mind if I just tell people about the book and like
Yeah, yeah,
you
please do.
wanna
And email me like the link to the book and we'll put it in the description and stuff.
yeah. So essentially, just built to run. I think we talked maybe like a year ago we were on the podcast, but the strength training session, the section has a lot of power exercises on it. There's going to be a second edition, Jay, because literally the moment I published the book, I'm like, shoot, I learned about all the ISOs and a lot of this other stuff. So no book's perfect. There's always stuff to add to it. But the arts chapter 5 is really good on. And main thing we talked about was foot health. There is a whole chapter on there about foot health. And then my next book, it's again, I don't want to spoil the name. It's probably going to be coming out sometime next year, but the goal of my next book is all about foot health. So it's going to take chapter 5, expand upon it. But if you want to know more about foot and arch health as a runner, definitely check out Built to Run. I would feel free to look me up at Matt Silver PT on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well, but Instagram is probably the easiest way. And then if you want to look at what we do, services, all that stuff, alphaprojectphysio.com. You can also check out the book there as well if you're interested.
Yeah, dude, I think it depends on the age range whether they're going to go to Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah. I have
I don't,
TikTok. I just never post on it.
dude, I think most people have given up on Facebook though. honestly.
Definitely like older generation, I think.
Right, man, I don't know. I even like some of the older generation are Instagramming now.
Yeah,
So
I think Instagram's taken over, but I feel like my parents in their 60s, they still go on Facebook. I don't know.
I think Facebook is more like international. Like there's a lot of countries that are still using Facebook like that aren't American. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Interesting.
know.
Yeah, man, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, sweet man. Well, I hope to see you soon. And yeah, let me know about when the new book title comes out. I'm excited to hear it. And I want to know how the pull-ups go.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated.
Not until after the race.
Yeah, yeah. Right
Don't
now, we're not going to focus too much on that.
don't start pull-ups now.
It's yeah. Well, I mean, I could bump out like maybe I could do
You
10
can,
in a row. I can
no,
bump
no,
out
no.
pull-ups.
No, don't do 10 in a row.
10 to
Unless
15
they're
every time. Just do 10.
no, unless they're really good.
They gotta be
Gotta be
no
really
fatigue,
good pull-ups.
full rep
Yeah,
pull-ups. All right.
yeah, yeah.
I'll just do two. Just do two good ones in a row.
So I expect a one-arm pull-up by the end of next year.
Yeah, man, I saw this girl doing a one-arm pull-up holding her baby. I'm like, I gotta step my game up.
So I saw Alex Honnold, the guy that climbed Half Dome with no
Yeah,
ropes.
yeah,
He
yeah.
he's not that great at one-arm pull-ups.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
it was hard. It was hard for dude. A one-arm pull-up is insanely hard.
Yeah, that's so much.
Like,
It's so much lat activation, and it's just
yeah,
it's
and you're like off center too.
yeah. You're hanging diagonally.
Yeah, you're hanging the wrong
And you
way.
want to twist too. Your body wants to twist on it.
Yeah,
It's
to get the momentum going. I've tried it. It's like I just hang there. There's no chance.
yeah. I'm just like I'm
Yeah,
stuck. This is
yeah,
it.
yeah. All right, man. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll let you know when it gets posted.
Yeah, sick. I'll email you like the links and stuff too, Jay.
All right, dude. Have a good one.
All right, see ya.
All right, bye. Bye.